Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. A new movie was released called The Watchers. And for those of you that don't know about The Watchers and how this correlates with scripture, I will explain it to you in this video and even show you some of the scenes from this movie, which came out in June, which depicts the Watchers that are mentioned in the book of Enoch. Now, for those of you that don't know about the book of Enoch, any of you who might be new spiritually, who have never heard of the book of Enoch because they've only read the books that are included in the Bible, the book of Enoch is a book that's been around for a long period of time because it was written by Enoch. You might remember Enoch from the Bible. Enoch lived 365 years before he was taken by God. He walked with God and he was no more, for God took him, is the verse in Genesis chapter 5, verses 21 through 24, which is interpreted, of course, as Enoch entering heaven alive. And the book of Enoch tells the story of 200 watchers or angels sent to watch over humanity. These watchers conspired to commit sins by taking human women as wives and having children with him. Those children are what we know of as the Nephilim. They also taught humans, the watchers, many skills relating to different sciences that we see in today's world. A lot of the technologies that we all hear about and how these people came up with these sciences, with these inventions, actually goes back to the book of Enoch and the fallen angels. And the watchers, and again, the off-bred of the watchers with humans, are the Nephilim. And they made a movie about the watchers, and they want you to think that this is just a horror movie, that you go to the movie theater to be entertained, that somebody just came up with this in their room, they wrote it as a... No, this is them revealing these things to us through film. They fictionalize these things, and I believe a lot of this has to do with them getting ready to reveal what they will call aliens, and of course they can't call them anything other than aliens. They can't call them demons, because that would wake people up to the Bible actually being real. We've talked about that many times with Aleister Crowley and how he taught in his teachings that what they called demons would then soon have a new name, aliens, in the future. And that is to deceive people into thinking that aliens, of course, are a creature that's floating around in space. It's something that we don't actually understand. But if you read the book of Enoch, it tells the stories of the Watchers and the Nephilim. And of course, these books, the book of Enoch, I should say, and the teachings in the book of Enoch have even been found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They've been around for a long period of time, but it's believed that it was the Vatican who had this removed because they didn't want people to actually learn about the book of Enoch, because then they would learn about the Bible and the giants and the fallen angels and, of course, where we are in today's world. If you actually read the book of Enoch, it lines up very well with the things that we're hearing about aliens and all the other stuff. So, obviously, they wouldn't want you to know that a movie like The Watchers is referring to something that's in the book of Enoch, because we live in a world where they've fictionalized and tried to make you think that the Bible is a fairy tale and that science is the only thing that we can go off of, when in fact they've created a science to try to fictionalize Christianity and the Bible. So I'm going to play for you a clip from this trailer so you can see what this movie's about. But there's important clips that I need to play so that you can see exactly how this does tie into the book of Enoch, the Watchers being the Watchers from the book of Enoch, and of course their offspring being the Nephilim. But here is that trailer.
What is this place? They come every night. They watch us until the sun rises again. It's a window on the other side.
Don't you want to know what they are?
So this is a film by Ashana Night Shyamalan, and you may remember M. Night Shyamalan, his movies like The Sixth Sense. The Knock at the Cabin is a recent one that he did, which is about the four horsemen demanding a sacrifice to prevent the apocalypse. He's got a movie called Devil. He's got a movie called The Happening, which I think has a lot to do with frequencies and 5G technology. So M. Night knows exactly what's going on. He references these things, and he's put on a pedestal as a person that we're supposed to go and see their movies because they're very good at what they do. They're better than we are. But you may have noticed the poster for the movie The Watchers that I showed a little bit earlier, and you can see the all-seeing eye symbolism, of course, in the poster. And that right there is what a watcher is supposed to be depicted as, a fallen angel, as you see the wings there covering the eye and the skeletal structure of the watcher. So the book of Enoch was omitted from the Bible because they felt like it wasn't something that you needed to know. Because obviously if they had deceptions planned and Satan had deceptions planned, then how in the world would people actually not come to Christ? How would people not come to God if they were seeing what was going on with aliens and actually realizing that we were talking about demons, that we had the fallen ones, and this technology that they've pushed and promoted as something as normal was actually taught to man from these fallen angels that fell to the earth, that God cast out. So I want to play for you a couple of clips from this film that are important to note. And they use the term fairy. The term fairy, you just replace it with fallen angels, because again, they like to fictionalize this stuff with folklore and fairy tale, but they tell a lot of truth in these films, because what they're doing is they're depicting the Bible, but not telling you that they're actually discussing the Bible. And they talk about in this clip when humans cursed and banished the fallen angels and became halflings. And then it goes on to talk actually about the Nephilim, which is what he's talking about. But I want you to pay attention, because he talks about, specifically the man speaking in this clip, about a transformation. Remember that word, transformation, because he talks about mixing human beings' genetics with the fallen ones, with the watchers, again, who their offspring is the Nephilim. And imagine what could be done with creating these hybrid human beings, so to speak. Listen to this clip, because there's a ton of truth in plain sight.
A detailed account of the time before the war.
Life with the fairies was a golden era in the age of man. They lived among us as guardians, friends, even mates. Those half-blooded children, born of both man and fairy, changed everything. They were particularly skilled in the art of transformation, even replicating those that had passed on. What became of the halflings? History has deemed their bloodline extinct. It is yet to be proven. With their power, think of what we could create, who we could bring back.
We were like gods once. It is because of humans that we were smothered under dirt for centuries, choking.
So remember, God sent these angels down in the book of Enoch to watch over the nations. But the watchers then, of course, rebelled against God. They passed themselves off as gods. And we even read about these watchers in the book of Genesis as well. In the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And then we had, of course, the flood, which was to rid the earth of the Nephilim, right? And in the book of Enoch, he even foretells about the flood that is to come. And I want to play for you this other clip, of course, of the watchers being put underground, because even in the book of Enoch, it says that the watchers were imprisoned under the earth until the final day. God sentenced the watchers under the earth until heaven and earth are ended forever. And they even show you that in this movie, which of course they refer to as fairies, because they're not going to openly talk about the watchers, Nephilim, or the fallen angels, because again, then people out there would start actually realizing that a lot of these missing scriptures line up with a lot of the falsehoods they're trying to present on our world in today's society, with this belief in aliens and other species, and how they're trying to normalize that. But listen to this clip about how the watchers were put underneath the earth. And again, this is referencing the book of Enoch.
This must be where the fairies were imprisoned. It is said that they once lived among us as gods, the bridge between nature and man. They were banished to a tomb deep underground, sealed in by a great door that prevented them from ever returning the way they came in.
So again, you can't deny that they're not speaking about the book of Enoch, that this entire plot is about the watchers mentioned in the book of Enoch. And then when we get to the offspring of the Nephilim, there's this scene at the end of the film. And one of the things I always talk about is all these shows called, that are about Lucifer or about wickedness, and how they turn the characters into the protagonist in these shows instead of the villain, the good guy, right? The TV show Lucifer, he's actually the good guy in the show. That's the upside down we're living in, right? Witches in a lot of these films are now depicted as the heroes. Well, they even tie in the end of this film. They even tie in mentioning how they used to live as one and how they fell in love and had children, which they called halflings, which are really Nephilim, and how they feel human emotion too, and they're just like we are, and there's many of them out there. And they want you to sympathize, of course, with the Nephilim. Look at this.
Our kinds used to live as one. Some even fell in love and had children. Kilmartin called them halflings. You're not just a watcher, Madeline. You're also part human. You must have felt it. That you never really belonged. You know what it is to be human. It's jealousy and hatred. But it's also love. Stop it. I know what it's like to believe you're a monster. I know what it's like to feel that half of you is evil. I think there are others like you out there. What if you could find them? We don't have to be alone anymore.
So that's always a common theme that we see in their films, right? In how they fictionalize truth, and they even show you witches or Lucifer himself in these TV shows, and they make him into the victim. They make him into the victim, right? Keep that in mind when we talk on this channel about how they victimize certain people that they want you to sympathize with and support. Because when you victimize evil, you could dupe good people into falling for evil, falling for deception. So that was the theme of the whole film, was literally them slowly building towards the reveal that the Watchers are actually mixed and bred with human beings, and that this character was one of them, was one of the Nephilim, or what they called the halflings, and how there's more out there. And it's not a bad person. It's not a bad thing, the Nephilim. It's good. It sees good and it sees evil. And of course, this is seed planting, like I talked about earlier, because those articles out there that I covered about Harvard and their social scientists laying out the case for the existence of crypto-terrestrials such as lizard people, and that type of a mindset about even articles saying the Harvard scientists say there may be unknown technologically advanced civilization hiding on Earth, is them preparing to reveal some of these things, but of course through deception. So reveal biblical truths, but tell you it's something else, because they don't want you to ever found out about some things that have been discovered in regards to Noah's Ark and some of these things that have been found by real life Indiana Joneses, so to speak, where people and archaeologists have actually found things that prove that the Bible is real, right? That prove that the Bible is real, even recovering or finding the location of Sodom and Gomorrah out in Saudi Arabia. They don't want you to know that the Bible's real. That's why they don't reveal these places to you. They hide these places from you, and then they create science around the Bible so that you believe that we were created out of a big bang, that science is real, and then you always have to trust in the science. But really, when we tie back in the theme of this film, they're really talking as well about breeding the Nephilim, which, again, would have to do with the transformation, right? The term transformation was in this film, talking about the transformation. Human mixing with a watcher, which is a fallen angel. And the only way they'd be able to manipulate your genetic code is if you actually allow them access inside of your body. Because remember, this common theme in today's society that we hear about with modern medicine, and again, when you read the book of Enoch and you read about how a lot of these advancements in science and technology were taught to man from the fallen ones, you start to think to yourself, wow, medicine, science, how about this thing they call gene editing? What are they really trying to do when they're talking about editing a human being's genetic code? Well, the theme of this film pretty much gives that away, but sadly, most Christians wouldn't realize that, and certainly the majority of our society wouldn't realize that because they don't teach this. You only know what they teach, which is lies. They teach us lies. They teach us a fake history of the world. They create science around the Bible to try to discredit the Bible. So whether you've read the book of Enoch or not, or whatever your take is on the books of Enoch, obviously it's something you could read for yourself. But anytime that there's books that are confirmed written, right? We know they were in the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know that the book of Enoch exists. Just because the churches did not include it in the Bible and they denounced that the book of Enoch should be included doesn't mean that you should. You should always read these things. And then especially in today's world with the stuff we see going on, I think learning about the books of Enoch are really important to try to piece some things together. Now, I know people out there will say, well, it discredits this, it discredits that. Well, it doesn't mean that you can't read and take some of the stuff, because it fills in a lot of holes in the Bible, right? It fills in holes about, when people read Genesis and they read about the giants and they read about the giants came in unto the daughters of men and they bare children with them. You don't often hear about that talked about in the church, do you? You don't go to your church on a Sunday and they're talking about Nephilim, or they're talking about, and that, because that's specifically in the Bible. And it's in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 33. Very significant numbers, by the way. We even saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Enoch that came from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own sight, and we must have seemed the same to them. So Nephilim and giants and fallen ones, these are all things that are biblical. You probably are just wondering where to find them in the Bible itself. And there's obviously not many verses that go into detail about the Nephilim. But when you start thinking about the government constantly pushing this alien deception on us, and I think a lot of people at this point are wondering, or at least should be wondering, where this technology continually is coming from that is getting released onto the public. We're supposed to believe that there's just some science nerd sitting in a laboratory somewhere that's figuring out how to make our, create a phone and make us listen to music through Bluetooth and all this type of stuff, that some guy just discovered it while playing around, some dweeb in his basement, right? There's not truth to that. The truth is that this technology was taught to them from the fallen ones, and I truly do believe that. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you find this video useful. Share it with others. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought of it. I thought it was pretty bad. Another really campy film, but there was other interesting things in there that I could have covered. I just assume the majority of people didn't actually see the film, so I didn't need to break down everything other than the main theme and how this ties in biblically. And again, truth always in plain sight. It's not so hidden from us. It's just your awareness of it when it's being presented directly to you, like it is in this film. But of course, they don't want you to think it's anything more than a horror film. But that's not the truth. And again, when I mentioned M. Night Shyamalan, so many of his films have something to do with some type of undertone to scripture and the Bible. And it's no surprise, even with some of the recent things that have been released from M. Night, they use all-seeing eye symbolism a lot in it, just like the picture for this film, the poster for the film, right, with the all-seeing eye symbolism. Again, I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.